Dear friends, poor Thomas has been in trouble, so the Fat Controller asked Toby to come and help run the branch line. Thomas and Toby are very good friends. Toby is a funny little engine with a queer shape. He works very hard and we are fond of him. We hope you will like him too. The author, the Reverend W. Audrey.
Toby and the Stout Gentleman.
Toby's a steam tram. He has cow catchers and side plates and doesn't look like a steam engine at all. He takes cars to factories in England. He has a coach called Henrietta, who has seen better days. It's not fair at all, she groans, remembering when she used to be full. And 9 cars are rattled behind her. Henrietta's old, but Toby loves her very much. Cars, buses, and lorries often have accidents. Toby hasn't had an accident in years. A lady and a stout gentleman are on the platform. The stout gentleman was, of course, the Fat Controller, but Toby didn't know this yet. Boop, 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 boop. Come on, grandfather, called the children. Do look at this engine. That's a tram engine, Stephen, said the Fat Controller. Is it electric? Asked Bridget. Whoosh! Toby hissed. Shh, shh, said her brother. You've offended him. But trams are electric, aren't they? Asked Bridget. They are mostly, but this is a steam tram. Can we go in it, grandfather, please? Stop! Sir Topham Hatt called to the driver. So Sir Topham Hatt and his family rolled in Henrietta for a while. Toby took the stout gentleman and his family back to the car, and the stout gentleman asked Toby, "What is your name?" Toby, sir. Thank you, Toby, said Sir Topham Hatt, for a nice ride. We'll come back, yelled the children. Goodbye. Toby muttered to himself, this gentleman really knows how to speak to engines like me. Huh. The children came every day for a ride, and on the last day, they and their family climbed into Toby's cab. They were invited. They had a really splendid time until it was time to go. Thank you, Toby, called Stephen and Bridget. We're so pleased to meet you, and such splendid rides. Come back. We'll come back soon. Yes, come back soon. And the family waved until Toby was out of sight. Months passed. Toby had fewer cars and fewer passengers. It was a terrible time for him. He was normally busy back in his younger days. This is our last day, Toby, said his driver one morning. The manager says we must close the line. Several passengers came to Toby on Toby's last day. They joked and sang, but Toby wished they wouldn't. Toby gave him one last ride around his railway. And on that last ride, they said, Goodbye, Toby. We're really sorry your line is closing down. So am I, said Toby, as he puffed away slowly. Nobody wants me, said Toby sadly as the driver and fireman closed the shed door. That night, A few days later, the driver opened the shed and waved a piece of paper. "Hey, Toby, look what we got. It's a letter from the stout gentleman." Toby listened but I mustn't tell you any more, or I shall spoil the next story.
Thomas in trouble.
There's a line to a quarry at the end of Thomas's branch. It goes for some distance along the line. Thomas takes cars and his two faithful coaches. One day, he saw a policeman close to the line. Thomas liked policemen. He has been friends with a policeman who just retired. One day, Thomas saw the policeman again, and he wondered if the policeman would be friendly too. But I'm sorry to say that he didn't look friendly at all. He was red in the face and very cross. "Good morning."
Disgraceful! I didn't sleep a wink last night. It was so quiet, and now engines come whistling suddenly behind me.
"I'm truly sorry, sir. I only said good morning." The policeman pointed to Thomas's buffers.
Where's your cowcatcher?
"Really? But I don't catch cows, sir,"
Don't be funny.
snapped the policeman, and then he looked at Thomas's wheels.
No side plates either.
And then he wrote in his notebook.
Engines going on public roads must have their wheels covered and a cowcatcher in front to protect people and animals from being dragged under the wheels if they stray onto the line. You haven't, so you are dangerous.
"Rubbish," said Thomas's driver. "We've been along here hundreds of times and never had an accident,"
That makes it worse.
said the policeman, and he wrote "regular lawbreaker" in his book. Thomas puffed sadly away. Sir Topham Hatt was having breakfast. He was eating toast and marmalade. The butler came in.
Excuse me, sir. You are wanted on the telephone.
"Bother that telephone," said Sir Topham Hatt. "Who could it be at this hour?" "I'm sorry, my dear," he said to his wife. "Thomas is in trouble, and I must go at once." Then he hurried away. Later, Sir Topham Hatt spoke severely to the policeman. But no matter how much he argued with him, it was no good.
The law is the law, and we can't change it.
Sir Topham Hatt felt exhausted. "I'm sorry, driver," he said. "It's no use arguing with policemen, but I think we might have to get some cowcatchers and side plates for Thomas." "What? But everyone will laugh, sir. They'll say I look like a steam tram, and Clone Gordon will laugh at me." "Thomas, you're right," said Sir Topham Hatt. "While I was on my holiday, I met a nice little steam tram called Toby. His line's closed now, and he really needs something to do on the railway. We really need a steam tram after all, so maybe he could take these public roads. What do you say? Good idea. He has cowcatchers and side plates, so he shall help." A few days later, Toby came. Well done, Toby, says the top hat. You came quick. And I see you brought your coach, Henrietta. Yes, sir. The station master wants to use her as a henhouse, and that would never do. No, indeed. Now I need you to work on Thomas's branch line. Well, at least a few parts. Thank you, sir. I've been stuck in the shed for so long. Toby made the cars behave better than Thomas.
Oi, you!
Ha! In your face, master!
Saturday news came to brighten up the day. And Toby and Henrietta were needed right away. The theft controller had written to say, could they please come and help right away? Now they're part of his family forever.
Dirty objects.
Toby and Henrietta were enjoying the new job on the island of Sodor, but they do look old-fashioned and did need new paint. One day they stopped at a station when James popped in. Hello there. What's your name? James. Yuck! What dirty objects you two are! I cannot believe how brown you are! At last Toby lost patience. James, he said, why are you red? I am a splendid engine, of course. I'm ready for anything. You never see my paint dirty. Oh, said Toby innocently. Well, I heard from Thomas. You once needed bootlaces to be ready, I suppose. James turned more red than his paintwork and he snorted off. It was such an insult to remind about the time he once needed bootlaces 3 books ago to mend a hole in his coaches. At the end of the line, James left his coaches and got ready for his next train. He is a mixed traffic engine after all. That train James was going to pull was a slow freight, stopping at every station to put down and set down cars. James hated slow freight trains. Dirty cars from dirty sidings. Yuck! Starting with only a few, he picked up more and more cars until he had a long train. At first, the cars behaved well, but James bumped them so crossly that they are determined to get back at him. Presently, they reached the top of Gordon's Hill. Heavy goods trains halt here to set their brakes. James had an accident with cars before and should have remembered this. Wait, James, wait, said the driver, but James wouldn't wait. He was too busy thinking what he'll say to Toby when they next met. The freight cars' chance had come. Hurrah! Hurrah! They laughed, and banging their bumpers, they pushed them down the hill. On! Yelled the cars. I got to stop! I got to stop! On! Faster! Faster! I don't want to go any faster! Help! And setting his brakes, he checked the truck's mad rust. But they were still going much too fast to stop in time. Through the station they thundered and lurched into the yard. And then trouble struck. There was a bursting crash, and something sticky splashed all over James. He had ran into 2 tar wagons and was black from smoke box to cab. He was more dirty than hurt, but the tar wagons and some of the cars were all to pieces. Toby and Percy were sent to help and came as quickly as they could. "Oh, look here, Percy. Whoever is that dirty object, that's James, didn't you know?" "It looks like James, but James is a splendid red engine." "Yeah, and you don't see his paint dirty." James shut his eyes and pretended he hadn't heard. Toby and Percy cleared away the unhurt cars and helped James home. Sir Topham was waiting for them. "Well done, Percy and Toby." He turned to James. "Fancy letting your cars run away. I am surprised. You're not fit to be seen. You must be cleaned at once. Toby should have a new coat of paint." "Please, sir, can Henrietta have one too?" "Certainly, Toby. Toby, you'll probably be chocolate brown, and Henrietta, well, we'll decide." "No, thank you, sir. She will be pleased." And Toby and Percy ran off, with James feeling sad and miserable. Tar stuck to his face.
Mrs. Kindly's Christmas.
It was nearly Christmas on the island of Sodor. Annie and Clarabelle were packed full of people and parcels up and down the branch line. Thomas was having very hard work. "I could do it! I could do it! I could do it!" Suddenly, Thomas saw a handkerchief outside a house. "I wonder who that can be." Thomas puffed on through a tunnel, and then he stopped in front of the little cottage. "That was Mrs. Kindly who waved to you, Thomas," said the driver. "She has to stay in bed all day." "Wow. Is she sick or anything?" Engines on Christmas time have heavy loads, and they have to work their tenders off. Thomas and Toby didn't mind the hard work, and pretty soon they were ready as ever. Suddenly, it began to rain. "Oh, bother, rain! Oh, come on!" Thomas hates the rain. Mrs. Kindly couldn't wave at him at that point in time. But still, the engine still honked and whistled at the little cottage. "Oh, glory! Look at that," said the driver one day. The house was nearly flooded. Then out a window, a red dress was waving. It was Mrs. Kindly's dress. So the driver and fireman wondered, Mrs. Kindly might need help. The driver hired the fireman to find a doctor and tell him to run down to the station and back if there's anything. So he did. The passengers went inside the little cottage. When the fireman returned, the driver said, "I think we should go back to the station so that Thomas can get a good start." "Now we'll never get up that hill." "What's happening?" The driver and fireman walked around the bend, and then the driver said, "Jiminy Cricket, go back! Go back! Go back!" So the fireman went back to the cottage, and the doctor was already there. "Are you all right, Mrs. Kindly?" he asked. "I'm doing fine," said Mrs. Kindly. "You saw the red dressing gown, didn't you?" "Yes," said the driver. "You know, doctor, there's a landslide up ahead. God bless you, Miss Kindly." The line was cleared by Christmas. Then out first came Toby, then Thomas, then Annie and Clarabelle, and last of all, Toby's faithful coach, Henrietta. Sir Topham Hatt came along as well, and so did some people who wanted to thank Mrs. Kindly for her life-saving moment. The engines whistled and called out to the cottage. Happy Christmas, everyone!
Happy holiday, everyone! Happy Christmas, everyone! Christmas! Happy Christmas!
The people got in the cottage. Thomas and Toby wished to go in, but they aren't humans. Mrs. Kindly's husband allowed the people to go through his door. Everyone went up to Mrs. Kindly's room and gave her presents. Mrs. Kindly was pleased at this. The Fat Controller told Mrs. Kindly that they can go to the seaside and that she accepted the gifts. "We couldn't thank you for preventing this accident," he told her. "We hope we didn't bother you, though. Goodbye." They soon went downstairs, and they joined everyone else in a chorus. Mrs. Kindly got better every single day. Thomas and Toby are glad still that Mrs. Kindly saved Thomas from a nasty accident. And from then on, they became Mrs. Kindly's friend. And Toby the Tram Engine is glad he became the number 7 of Sir Topham Hatt's railroad.